On the 12th of August 1845, at Carnarvon, Griffith and Margaret Pritchard had a son whom they would name John Pritchard. At the time John was born, he was the second child his parents had, and eventually they would go on to have a total of 4 kids, and John was the only son of the batch. John would be raised at Carnarvon, and it was a major Welsh port, where many of the men would eventually go on to become commanders of seagoing vessels, and John would be no different. However, before he boarded a ship at the age of 10, he was orphaned for unlisted reasons. Most probably his parents died. At the age of 13 in 1858, John would board his first ship, which was the 117-ton schooner Empress, mastered by Captain Thomas Hudson. 2 years later in 1860, John was transferred to the newly commissioned 120-ton schooner Eleanor Thomas, where he would earn 12 shillings a month as the ship's cook. While he was serving on both the Empress and the Eleanor Thomas, he was simultaneously taking lessons in navigation from a retired master mariner, which was an important step in his future career in becoming a ship's commander. While serving on the Eleanor Thomas, he would be promoted from ship's cook to seaman, and in 1868, he would achieve his second mate certificate, and 2 years later, he would obtain his first mate certificate. After obtaining his first mate certificate in 1870, he would transfer to Liverpool, where he would join a vessel trading company between India and the Far East. 2 years after joining the trading company, he would qualify and obtain his Master Mariner certificate. Having obtained his Master certificate and having been careful with his money, he purchased a share and became a partial owner of the small brig Sybil Wynne, and he was given command of the vessel, finally becoming a captain. The Sybil Wynne was capable of carrying 800 tons of cargo and usually ran between Britain and South America. In 1879, Captain Pritchard decided to leave Carnarvon and went to Wallsend-on-Tyne, as he was now invested in becoming familiar with steam-powered ships, and so he took delivery of the newly built 80-ton Princess of Wales, which was one of the smallest steamships built in history. 1 year later in 1880, Pritchard would join the Cunard Steamship Company, and he would be made the junior deck officer of the Samaria. On the 15th of January 1881, Samaria made contact with a schooner that was struggling in harsh weather and was beginning to founder. So, Junior Officer Pritchard was put in command of a lifeboat to rescue the crew of the schooner, which he did successfully in appalling conditions. His calm demeanor and Welsh connections with the Welsh crew of the schooner allowed him to successfully save the entire crew of the schooner, and for his actions he was awarded the Silver Medal of the Royal Humane Society. Upon returning to Liverpool, he was promoted to third officer and was transferred to the Atlas. In 1885, just 14 years after joining the Cunard Company, Pritchard was promoted to captain and given his first command aboard the 772-ton British Queen, which was launched in 1849. Captain Pritchard's first large command was the freighter Sylvania, which was about 5,600 tons. After Sylvania, he was transferred back to the Samaria, but this time as her commander, and while he was commanding Samaria, he participated in another rescue mission when an 80-ton schooner was blown out to sea during bad weather, and he rescued the crew from it. As a result of this rescue, the voyage was delayed by 5 days. Captain Pritchard's first prestigious command was when he took delivery of the newly completed 14,300-ton Saxonia in 1900, taking it out on its maiden voyage on the 22nd of May that year. By 1901, Captain Pritchard had held command of all of Cunard's Atlantic Ocean liners at least one time, with the exception being Umbria. As a result of his wide variety of commands, he was a well-known commander within the Cunard fleet, and he became a personal favorite of many of the ship's crews, along with reoccurring passengers who in many cases would seek to travel on ships he was in command of. He would be described as a man of middle height with a thick-set, sturdy frame, an iron constitution, and a face that would be a fortune to a diplomatist, shrewd, wise, tactful, patient, good-humored, vigilant, and above all, strong. In 1904, while commanding Campania, Captain Pritchard would make friends with an unusual passenger, Mr. Marconi, the father of wireless. On the 24th of May 1905, Mr. Marconi was testing a more powerful transmitter, and he wrote a message to Pritchard while running the test, and this message actually survives today. The message reads, "Dear Captain Pritchard, we have been in Canada and the Nova Scotia much longer than I expected, but hope to have the pleasure of returning with you on your next homeward trip. The new long-distance wireless station is almost completed, and I am looking forward to being able to carry out some very interesting and important tests with it from the Campania. My wife is so glad we are going to cross on the Campania and asked me to remember her kindly to you. We would be so glad if we could again be granted the honor and pleasure of being at your table during the voyage. With best regards, believe me, very sincerely yours, G. Marconi." During the mentioned homeward voyage, Marconi encouraged Captain Pritchard to send a message to his wife in Cornwall from the middle of the Atlantic, a distance that had never been covered before. But Marconi was confident in his new technology, while Captain Pritchard was skeptical. But when Pritchard's message reached Britain, and he received a reply from his wife, Captain Pritchard was very enthusiastic about the technological developments of wireless messaging. Later on, Captain Pritchard would take command of the new sisters Caronia and Carmania, which were about 20,000 gross registered tons, and while on a Mediterranean cruise, he took the Caronia into the inner harbor at Alexandria in Egypt, which port authorities thought was impossible for a ship of that size, but Captain Pritchard displayed his excellent skill and maneuvered the vessel carefully. In 1907, the Ambrose Channel was enlarged in anticipation for the soon-to-be-completed Cunard or Lusitania, and on the 27th of August 1907, while still in command of the Caronia, Captain Pritchard became the first commander to maneuver a ship through the newly deepened channel. In late 1907, Captain Pritchard was summoned to take command of a vessel he probably never anticipated would have been built during his lifetime, the 31,938 gross registered ton Mauretania. By late October of 1907, Mauretania had completed its builder's trials, and Captain Pritchard was scheduled to command it for the first time during Cunard's acceptance trials, which would take place on Tuesday, the 22nd of October, 1907, and the acceptance trials went off without a hitch. On the 16th of November, 1907, he would take Mauretania out on its maiden voyage, and for the remainder of his career, he would be Mauretania's captain. In 1908, while commanding Mauretania on a voyage from New York to Britain, Captain Pritchard diverted his course to assist a vessel from the United States that was signaling distress. As a result of his actions, President Roosevelt recommended that Captain Pritchard be awarded a pair of binoculars and a certificate acknowledging his humane act. As a result of this, his master's certificate was stamped with the seal of the American Board of Trade. Due to his excellent service, in January of 1909, Captain Pritchard was promoted to Commodore, the highest rank in the Cunard Company, and Mauretania would fly a small flag with the crest of the Cunard Line, an honor reserved for the Commodore of the fleet. Over the course of the next year, Commodore Pritchard's service was uninterrupted until the 23rd of October 1909, when, after 53 years at sea, 30 of which were with the Cunard Line, Commodore Pritchard finally announced that he would be retiring. Commodore Pritchard would depart Liverpool for the final time on the 20th of November 1909, and he would depart New York for the final time on the 11th of December 1909. During his final voyage, the weather deteriorated and became very rough, and a second-class passenger by the name of Margaret Hodgson passed away as a result of heart failure at the age of 54, and she was buried at sea on Christmas Day. Mauretania would arrive at Fishguard on the 27th of December, and at 3 p.m., Commodore Pritchard would depart Mauretania for the final time. He had completed his 534th Atlantic crossing. Pritchard received countless flowers, letters, and telegrams congratulating him on his excellent service and wishing him the best in retirement, and he also made front page of the Daily Mirror, honoring his service and titling him the best-known sea captain in the world. The remainder of John Pritchard's life would be quiet until the 29th of January, 1922, when, at the age of 76, he passed away peacefully at his home in Cheshire. He would be buried on the 3rd of February, with the chief mourner at his funeral being his son, Captain William G. Pritchard. Captain John Pritchard is by far one of the greatest seagoing captains to have ever lived, and his career was highly decorated and duly so. He took command of a mere 80-ton vessel from the builder, and just 28 years later, he was given command of the largest, most prestigious ocean liner in the world with one of the greatest ocean liner companies, and that vessel was more than 330 times the size of the 80-ton Princess of Wales. Commodore Pritchard is one of the forgotten figures of maritime history, but he most certainly deserves some recognition. With that having been said, that is all I have to say on this topic for today. So, if you have learned something new in this video, why not leave a like and a comment down below, and have a wonderful day.